What's up, everybody? It's Dakota, and today you can see that I'm not in my normal office slash hiding hole that I'm usually in. Today I got outside because it was a rainy day, and I'm bringing you a modern deck tech, and I'm doing it in a different format because I actually have the person that played the deck at the event. So this is my friend and former brewer of special things, Randy.
Hello. So we have Infect. I did this at the Team Open in Columbus. I had two other teammates. They were playing Jund and Mono Green Tron. We were able to day two and get to 19th place. Not the best finish, but we took the decks that we felt were strong that wasn't Urza, basically.
We were playing the good guys.
Yeah, basically. We're trying not to fall to the Urza trap. But So this is pretty much almost a stock list of what Infect is nowadays. You have a couple of flex spots anymore. Like the Spell Pierce I play is sort of a flex spot. Um, Spell Sky is kind of a flex spot. Either you have one or two in the main or one or two in the sideboard. It kind of just depends on what you're expecting to play against. Um, Seeing that it was an open and it was the first of the year, not many modern decks or modern tournaments or anything was going on during December because of all the holidays. I decided to run with two spell skites because it seemed like it was good against an unknown meta. Like obviously I knew Urza was going to be everywhere, but I had no idea Burn was still even in the meta or Jund or who was going to be playing what. I played against a variety of decks and Spellkite did actually come in handy and won me a couple games. So it was a good meta call for the time, but you could easily cut it and not run it. Um, but as for like why I chose Infect or like why you've probably heard of Infect or someone has talked about Infect if you paid attention to Modern at all. Basically, ever since Modern Horizons came out, obviously Modern got big with a bunch of new decks, new spells. I think a card that a lot of people either missed or didn't care about was Scale Up. Basically, it turned Infect from 2.5 tier 2.5 tier 2 into tier 1 tier 1.5. Scale up allows us to cut a lot of the spells you were running before. Like before Infect had to run like mutagenic growth. We were playing like 4 ground swells, even become immense, just to make sure we could get that extra damage. Scale up negates all those cards. Just being able to go turn 1 dude, turn 2 dude, 6/4, then like Mightable Croso kill you, invalidates a lot of need for all these little 2 pump spells. And then, of course, with Throne, we got Once Upon a Time and Oko, which, I mean, everyone knows why people play Oko. He essentially just negates a lot of decks, he negates the creature value of a lot of decks. So, I mean, basically, our Oko is there for like the Eldrazi-Tron matchup, the Burn matchup, and when we have to go to Plan B, which is win by regular damage.
So Once Upon a Time is actually really interesting because it's not a pump spell and it's not really a piece of interaction. So why did the Infect decks adopt Once Upon a Time and a deck that is pretty light on creatures and lands, all things considered?
So we picked up Once Upon a Time because essentially now we're playing 4 more creatures, essentially. So some of like the best turns I have with this deck are going, like I'm going. For, let's say I'm going first. Like turn 1, I play Once Upon a Time, hit like either like a Glistener Elf, a Noble, or Inkmoth Nexus, which is our land as a infect creature. And so it allows me to go like turn 1 Noble into turn 2, like play infect creature plus Inkmoth Nexus, or like even I can do like a crazy turn of like turn 1 Noble, turn 2 Glistener Elf, Blade Agent, and Inkmoth Nexus. So now you represent 3 threats in a deck that runs very little threats. So Once Upon a Time just kind of gives us that advantage of like whatever we need to dig for, we can dig for. And if anyone's played Once Upon a Time, you know how like, man, this hand's pretty sketchy, but I have Once Upon a Time, so now it's okay. And it like basically allows us to keep like one land hands, so we're now like, oh, we got 5 more cards to find our second land, or we got, oh, I don't really have an infect creature, but I got like a noble and 2 lands and pump spells and Once Upon a Time. Well, now we can dig for one of our infect creatures.
Sounds like a beautiful story.
It is.
represented by the card Once Upon a Time perfectly. So basically, you said that, like you expected the meta to be basically wide open. The open's usually known for like having like blue white control and people playing like really bad decks for no reason, and then playing overpowered ones like the Urza decks.
Hmm.
So basically, when you sit down, like the person across from you, like what really ruffles the jimmies, like when they play what on turn one, like what do you expect? What do you want to see?
Um, Ironically, I think we're one of the few decks that when we see Tron, we're just like, all right, this is a free win. So Tron doesn't like. Obviously, people played against Tron. The turn three Karn, like that doesn't bug us. Like we can kill you on turn three. So like when I see them go like Tron piece, I'm either really happy or really sad because it either means I'm playing against E-Tron, a Tron, or I'm playing against Mono Green Tron. So if against Mono Green Tron, like I said, they just don't interact with me. So um, I've like Tron just doesn't have a good matchup for us. Like if you ask any Tron player what they don't want to sit against, it's Infect because it's just too fast and zero interactive, and like their all their catch up cards like against like the aggro decks are gain life, which Infect doesn't give anything about. Like we just don't care. And then like Etron is the opposite because they play Chalice on one, which is why we have to play so many like um, artifact removal spells in the sideboard, and then it's also why like we have Oko because it just helps kill Etron or helps kill Chalice on one. Like this, as you can see, like most of our deck is one drops. Almost all our pump spells are no, all our pump spells are one drops. Almost all our creatures are one drops. Like the only thing it costs two or more is our Once Upon a Times, our Spell Skites, Blight Agents, and Okos. So it just shuts this deck down hard. And then Crabvine would be another good deck that Infect just kind of auto wins against. They play no removal main deck. They really rely on flipping over a um, their flyer that comes back. I can't think of it now.
Narcomoeba.
Yeah, Narcomoeba. They really rely on Narcomoeba because it helps them against like our land Inkmoth Nexus. But like if we just like play Blade Agent on turn two, like they're not winning that game usually.
Oh
Uh,
boy. So basically, that's what gets the pants like really thick, if you will. So you said Eldrazi was the worst matchup, or one of your bad matchups because of Chalice. Like,
mm-hmm.
what are some other ones? Like, what makes you really sad?
Jun's usually a pretty bad matchup. Oku does help with the Jun matchup in the sense of like you can now go and play a longer game and you don't have to worry about like they have to worry about their life total now like because Jun has like a real like damaging mana base and so like just Okuing like two of my creatures or Okuing a creature and a food token puts them out to where like they have to play defense and they have to play the long game, which I think still favors Jun. But now we have more than just like oh we played against Jun. They went turn one Thoughtseize, turn two Bolt, turn three Lily, and we just scooped. And then the Mono Red Prowess deck that floats around is also another big uh, pain for us. Lava Dart is the worst card to ever get put into Modern. All our creatures are one toughness, so and them being able to do it at instant speed as well as this flashback for zero cost, basically.
And I can I can see this being very upsetting for you.
Yeah, like I mean that's why I put the spell skate in because I knew, like going into the open, obviously I had researched somewhat of what modern was picking up to and uh, getting up to. Like I knew the Titan decks are going to be big, which are not too like they're not too terrible of a matchup for us because of Blighted Agent and Inkmoth Nexus, and then I knew that a lot of people's counteract to Urza, or what they thought would be a good counteract to Urza, was playing the Prowess deck because it just goes underneath Urza. And Spellskite kind of like was my hedge against that, along with Oko, which I mean it did come in handy. Oko actually won me the match against Prowess I faced in round one. Uh, I learned how broken Oko was against Mono Red. Basically, like I knew it was broken, but like being able to stabilize at one life with Oko
You,
is should not be allowed
you,
against a deck that plays 82 burn spells.
you know what they say about Oko, right?
He's Broko.
No, the only way to stop a bad person with an Oko, is a good person with an Oko. Thank you, Ryan Overturf, for my new favorite joke
That's good.
for like the next 12 hours that this card's legal in the format.
Yeah, definitely. Think it's gonna get banned.
All right, so basically, obviously this is like the 75 that you played.
Hmm.
You said that there were some changes that you would make if someone was going to play this exact 75 or decide to copy it. What changes would you decide to make going forward?
So I think it ultimately depends on what happens with the new banning. If Urza's allowed to be in the meta, or if this iteration of Urza that's still running around is allowed to be in the meta. I definitely think you want either more collected oofs and probably another Viridian Corruptor. Um, you need answers to Urza's artifacts. You need a way to stop them from activating their artifacts. Um, you can beat Urza with Infect. I did it a couple times. I also lost to it a couple times. It's real dependent on what cards they see and what kind of disruption they see. So like, it's real hard to beat EE. Like we just like as a deck, you can't beat that card because your protection spells mean nothing. Excuse me, mean nothing against it. Your real only answer is like a collector oof or like a force of vigor or Viridian corruptor to force it out and force it to pop when you want it to pop. But uh, Veil of Summer was good, but it wasn't four of good. So like I said, I put that in there because I thought maybe the shadow decks were going to be popping up more. That's like also the reason for the two of Okos in the sideboard. I probably trim one Oko for sure. I probably trim one to two Veil of Summers depending on what you think the meta is going to be. If you think that there's still going to be a lot of like blue black decks or shadow decks and stuff, I keep three, but I probably go down to two for now. Um, you definitely just want to increase at least to two, maybe three collector oofs. Like he just, it's really sad. Like you have to put these cards in that like aren't infect related, but it's your best answer to the menace that is Urza.
I'd almost kind of like to see more like creature cards in the sideboard just for once upon a time.
Mm-hmm. That was like that's the reason. Like so, I don't know if you able to look at most infect decks. They're not playing the Viridian Corruptor. They're playing more Force of Vigor,
Mm.
and I cut a Force of Vigor for the Viridian Corruptor just to have another out with like Once Upon a Time. Especially because like game two and three is when you're gonna see like when Viridian Corruptor is gonna be in the board, so you're gonna know if like you need it or want it.
Mm. Well, that's pretty sweet. I like that just kind of dawned on me too.
Yeah,
When I was looking at it, I was like, just playing more creature targets like in the sideboard, or yeah, like more like utility lands maybe, or like creature cards in like the sideboard to like help out with some of these like the bad matchups. Seem like
yeah.
they'd be pretty good.
Like I said, it's gonna be just seeing what goes forward. Like obviously, if Urza gets knocked down and Burn comes back up and such, we'll change the sideboard to be more proactive against that. Or like the sideboard's definitely a living sideboard. It's not any like it's kind of like how Jund is. Like Jund doesn't play the same sideboard for any event. You don't really want to like infect is definitely just based on what you're play like what you expect to be the meta.
And hopefully you get that metal call right
Yeah, you're
too.
you're you're kind of like
Definitely.
crossing your fingers. Um, I definitely had some good meta calls. Essentially, like uh, basically like the collector oof and Viridian Corruptor and Force of Vigor came in a lot over my tournament. Um, Mystical Dispute didn't come in too much. It's good against the Urza decks, but it's not like the problem is your deck only has so many cards you can take out before you start just diluting the plan. So like same way with like Veil of Summers, like when you're already bringing in three cards against Urza, like how many more cards can you afford to like disrupt and remove and stuff like that? So like a lot of times I was cutting like a Spell Pierce and like Groundswell because that's going to be like your worst pump because it requires the landfall to make it worth playing. And there's so many times where like, oh, I got my three lands out, and like you're going to try to kill on turn four, and like you don't have the land for Groundswell, so you're just like, oh, well, I guess we're gonna keep playing this game out. I mean, which I guess is common though. Infect doesn't go like turn two kill almost ever. Like it's a very good possibility to do it, but you almost never lead with Glistener Elf if you have a noble. Like you never want to play one of your creatures unprotected if you can help it, unless you know your matchup's not going to have an answer to it. So like main deck against like Urza. Like I could play a Glistener Elf because like they're not gonna have hard removal, and like the worst they can do is Oko basically, which then just puts me on plan two at that point, or I can just like start attacking from two different angles. But
I see the one snow-covered forest. Have you considered Astrolabe?
I have. It just turns out that one snow covered forest is not good enough. If anyone's wondering about that snow covered forest, it was more because I could than any action. There's no technical reason. There's no like meta call. There's no nothing for it. I just wanted to play one forest, one snow covered forest.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, to get things wrapping up, so Infect obviously was it was very good. You said you went 8-6.
Yes.
In your own personal matches. The team also went 8-6, but
Yeah.
like you went 8-6 in your own personal matches. Um, Obviously had some turn 2 and turn 3 kills. Had some
Mm-hmm.
games that were like pretty grindy that obviously went either way, and you've either won them or lost them.
Yeah.
Turns out those are usually the only two results.
Well, there are
Um,
draws.
there are draws, but nobody likes those.
No, usually Infect doesn't end up drawing, not unless we're on like hardcore Oko plan because this is the meta now. It's just Oko's meta. We're just living in it, guys.
So Oko mirrors and people that are wrong. Got it. So going forward, playing Infect, like what is there any like tips like basically to kind of like jumpstart people's prowess with the deck? Like if people like see this or see any of the opens, they want to pick it up. Like what are some good tips?
Um, Basically, play slow. It's really cool to kill someone on turn two, but it doesn't happen often. Your deck is all about the incremental damage. Like you only need to do 10 damage, and you want to make your opponent blink first. So unless you have to go for it, don't go for it. Um, I know there's a lot of times where you like I've gotten too excited like oh I have the kill and I just go for it and get blown out by some random spell where it's just like a path I didn't think about or XYZ spell that's like oh yeah that's a thing like I've like against control decks I went for a kill before without thinking about force negation and like obviously it didn't matter because like my creature didn't die but it's still just all these possibilities you need to think of like never be like doing a kill over 2 turns or 4 turns is never a problem unless you're under extreme pressure. Most decks, excuse me, most decks in the meta aren't pushing you down to where you need to win turn two, turn three. The Urza deck's gonna play a long game. You can go there with them, especially if you're just making them exhaust their resources. Once you get someone up to like 5, 6 poison, every pump spell now becomes lethal. They have to think constantly every single turn of like, does he have it? Will he have it? What do I do? And basically, you're just making them blink instead of yourself. Like, don't be afraid to attack for one, attack for two with the noble trigger. You'll get there. Pendlehaven is a godsend. Um, don't be afraid to use it.
Yeah, they use the new Pendlehaven art. That's gross.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but I don't put up the list, so. But yeah, just take it slow and don't don't force your hand unless you have to. Make them force their hand.
This is some very impactful, powerful stuff. I'm ready to take over my FNMs now with Infect. Randy, thank you so much for going over these things and giving us like a deeper insight on the deck and everything. Like I definitely learned some stuff. You know, we talked about this for like a while before we actually recorded
Yeah.
and things like that. And there's actually even stuff that I didn't know before that like I know now. And I think I'm better equipped with my Death Boys to deal with the Infecty boys.
Yeah, I say
So
that's definitely a weird matchup for you.
it's great. It's great. So that's gonna do it for this new, different style of deck tech that you're used to not seeing from my channel. I wanted to go a little bit deeper, so I figured why not go with probably one of the secretly probably top 5, top 10 like intricate decks in modern. I would say that you could play right now that aren't Urza. So definitely getting someone that has played the deck way more than I have and giving their insight is something that I definitely appreciate. And Randy, I thank you again and many of times for helping me out with this video. I do
Oh yeah,
greatly appreciate it, and it's going to get millions of views, and you're going to be famous.
we'll see about that, but it was no problem.
So
Always a pleasure.
So if you want to see more videos like this or just more deck techs in general, you can check out more videos on my channel. I do tons of like the top tier modern decks and pioneer decks, along with some fringe decks that just look like they're kind of cool and do something innately powerful some of the time that would be fun to take at FNMs. I also do card spotlights, especially with Theros Beyond Death coming out in 2 weeks now.
Yeah, because next week's the pre-release.
Yep. Uh, Gonna go over some pre-release stuff too in the coming weeks for beginning players and more advanced players. Just things to keep in mind when you're playing at your LGS and things like that. And consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy stuff like this. To see more Magic stuff. Also follow me on Twitch, where we don't do nearly as much Magic stuff as we do on the YouTube channel, but we just like to hang out and have fun. Shenanigans happen. Sometimes we lose some sweet runs in Pokemon. Them's the beats. But yeah, that's going to do it for me and my special guest, Randy. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see y'all in the next one.